All right, now that everybody can hear me. I want to thank the members of the committee that have come a long way to be here. Roger Bruce was just telling me that in all his years on the committee, this is the first time that we've come outside the Capitol, outside the committee room, to come up here. But this is an important issue. It's one that has dogged Banks County for a long time, I'll put it that way. And so I wanted to hear from the folks here in the county as to why we need to make a change or why we should leave it alone. I understand this goes back a good number of years, and it's something that has hung around for a long time, so I think it needs to be heard. I had the staff invite all the county officials that we could think of that would be involved in this process. But this isn't just for county officials or elected officials to speak at. If anybody from the general public is here and would like to speak, you're welcome to do that. We have a sign-up sheet, I think, right over there, oh, right here. Thank you. But what goes on here today will determine a lot about what happens to the legislation that I'm about to call on Chris Irwin to speak about. We need to hear from you. We need to know how you feel about this, if this is something you want, if this is something that you don't want. That will make a huge difference when we crank up in January for our next session and deal with the bill that's already been dropped. So with that, Chris, if you'd like to introduce your bill to the crowd, and then we'll go from there.
And I'm going to ask our Senator Bo Hatchett to come up with me too, as he has a companion bill, as I think you're aware of, in the Senate. And we have had many long discussions on this together. Let me tell you, I've also been accused of members of putting you to work up here in God's country, by the way. So thank you for coming. Thank you, Lord, for the safe travels for y'all to get here and hopefully home. Let me start this out like I think we do on all bills. This is a simple bill. It's 3.5 pages. I haven't counted exactly the number of words, but this is a simple bill. And this is a bill that has been discussed, Mr. Chairman, for quite some time. This opportunity for Banks County to move from the Piedmont District to the Mountain Judicial Circuit. Something that I believe that the Banks County citizens are very passionate about in my travels throughout my district. And the fact that if you look at the geography of our district and what is taking place in our district, you'll see that Banks County, there we go, we're back. I think that Banks County sits on the northern end of the circuit that we call Piedmont. And we, as a group of constituents here, feel that we fit better for a number of reasons in that mountain circuit with more like systems. One of them is very similar. All of them are very similar in size, especially compared to the other two counties in which make up the Piedmont District at this time. So we began talking about where the constituents or my constituents could get the best service. So this didn't become a, we're mad at anybody and we're just trying to get out. We're looking at where we fit best as a smaller, not aggressively growing county, and an opportunity for those services in a smaller circuit of similar size and nature and growth. So that is kind of to give you a little history, Mr. Chairman and members, of how this bill came about, HB 368. Obviously, we're in a Senate District 50, which is represented by Bo Hatchett right next to me. has heard very similar conversations and has started the process within his chamber. So if you would, Mr. Chairman, if I could allow him to say something too.
Sure. Senator Hatchett, come on up. I understand you may practice some in this county
I
as
do.
well. Yeah.
Actually, my first experience in a courtroom was this courtroom. I represented someone that was driving too fast pro bono and pro se as well. So it was myself.
Yourself.
It ended up did pretty well. So, but thank you guys so much for coming, and welcome to the 50th District, Banks County. We call it home, and it's a special place, and this is an important issue, and it's an issue that I have been spoken with about numerous times since I honestly began running, and my understanding it's been an issue that's been brought up for at least 20 years and potentially more. Banks County has for a long time wanted to move to the Mountain Judicial Circuit, and for years one of the issues that prevented them from moving was the fact that the Mountain Judicial Circuit only had 2 judges. Well, as of last year, now they have 3 judges and could actually take on the caseload. But beyond that, what I'm hearing and the reasons behind the will to move, it's not personal. It has nothing to do with, any characters in Jackson County or Banks County. What it has to do with is Banks County represents 10% of the caseload of the Piedmont Judicial Circuit. 10%. Jackson County and Barrow are growing at a rapid rate. It doesn't take long when you cross over into Jackson County to see that. And the same thing with Barrow County. And so that percentage is probably going to grow further as we move forward in time. The other thing is, if you look at those that have been elected in the Piedmont Circuit, from a DA to the judges, there has never, to my knowledge, been one elected from Banks County. So there's never been a Banks County citizen that's been elected as DA or judge. And while I'm a practicing attorney, former judge here, you don't think that it shouldn't matter as far as legal representation and as far as judicial representation, but the people do notice that, and they feel like their voice isn't heard. And there's also a financial piece to this as well, with the amount of money that Banks County is paying into the Piedmont Circuit to be a part of that versus what they could potentially pay to be a part of the Mountain Circuit. I think that for a number of reasons, Banks County is just a more natural fit, as Chairman Irwin said earlier, geographically, but also culturally. It's very difficult to tell the difference between Banks and Habersham when you're driving down 441. It's the culture between the 2 counties and the culture within the Mountain Judicial Circuit. It would fit Banks County well to be a member. I've spoken with judges in the Mountain Judicial Circuit who have not taken a position, to my knowledge, but just as far as logistics goes, could they and would they be willing to take on the additional caseload that could come from Banks joining the Mountain Judicial Circuit? All my conversations are they would, and that they could take it on. So I know that, Chairman, Your Honor, there is we could be setting a precedent here. In the past we have split judicial circuits, but generally when we split them, the county that moves out becomes a new circuit. And so we may be charting our own course here, where you're moving one from one circuit to another. And I think that while it could be new precedent being set, I think ultimately it is better for the state now to look at this situation and not look to create a new circuit, but to join the 2 because they are a good fit. And quite frankly, we have enough judicial circuits in the state. But just for the committee's knowledge, this bill, companion bill with Chris Irwin's, has passed the Senate, and it's also sitting in the House as well. Would love an opportunity to get a vote in this committee and to see it move forward, because I think the legwork has gone into preparing for this, and it is, to my knowledge and my understanding, the will of the people of Banks County, which is why I'm so thankful you're here, and you should hear that testimony today.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hopefully we will. All right, so we've introduced the legislation, and what I'd like to do now is let each member introduce themselves to the folks here so that you know who's dealing with this legislation. So let's start on this end down here. Tyler Paul. Tell them where you serve and what you do for a living.
Okay. My name's Tyler Paul Smith. I serve the 18th House District, comprised of all of Haralson County, a little bit of Paulding County, and a good bit of rural Carroll County. I chair the Judiciary Non-Civil Committee that deals with all the criminal traffic codes in the state, anything from spotlighting, buck, deer, all the way up to murder. So practice law in that area, practice in several different circuits, even get up this way every now and then, not in Banks County, but just a little east of Hart. So beautiful drive up here, and had to come back around fall to see the leaf change too.
Hi, I'm Sue Hong. I represent House District 103, which is North Gwinnett and South Hall County. And I also practice law mainly in Metro Atlanta.
You have to kind of hold it for a second or so. There you go.
Good afternoon. I'm Stacey Evans. I represent House District 57, which is parts of the city of Atlanta. But before you worry too much, I originally hail from the other mountains in northwest Georgia, born and raised in Catoosa, and my family's all still there. Was great to get back up in the mountains today. And I'm also a practicing attorney, mostly in the metro area, but I tend to find myself north, south, east, and west as well. So thanks for having us.
Good afternoon. I'm Mary Margaret Oliver. I'm a lawyer in Decatur, Georgia, where I've practiced mainly in the metropolitan area. But in my 20s, a few decades ago, I came here often as a very young lawyer in many different ways and have fond memories.
Good afternoon, Matt Reeves, also from Gwinnett County, Duluth, Suwannee, and Sugar Hill. I'm a business and real estate litigation lawyer. Was in court in Cobb County this morning. Looking at these circuits, I've been in court in Raven, Stevens, Banks, Jackson, and Barrow. I don't remember being in court in Habersham, but both circuits are great circuits to practice law, and I'm proud to hear you out today.
All right, I'm Stan Gunner, Chairman of Judiciary. I'm a retired judge and former DA. I've had a lot of experience in the Northeast Georgia area. I grew up in Habersham County, so did my wife. And I'm also very familiar with Banks County as well and the folks here. So, and can't wait to hear what y'all have to say.
Let me take it back. Stonies, I represented Stonies, so I've got them all covered. All right. Go ahead.
I'm Representative Doug Stoner. I represent District 40, which is in Cobb County. I represent Smyrna and Bindings, so I'm over there near the Braves Stadium. It's about 3 miles from my house. On top of that, I do not practice law, nor would you want me to, because I am not a lawyer. I just play one down at the Capitol. But what I do is a family business, and one of the things that we own is we own Dairy Queens. So I can still do the curl on top after all these years. It's like riding a bicycle. But so I'm a business person and I serve here on the committee. Obviously, someone's got to keep an eye on all these lawyers and everything. But glad to be here. Thank you.
I'm State Representative Roger Bruce. I represent Fulton County and Douglas County. I think I'm the second longest serving member of this committee. You're the first. And I'm the second, almost 20 years. And I had the honor of coming in a little earlier today. I met one of your county commissioners in the restaurant across the street. And I felt like I was in the barbershop. And we had a very, very long conversation. Once they got to know, before I left there, I think everybody in the restaurant knew who I was. So,
Representative Bruce, glad you got out a little bit today and got to meet some folks. My name is Rob Leverett. I'm from Elberton. I practice law over there. I have a small town civil practice. Been in the House for about, I guess it's my third year, my second term. Real pleased to be here today to hear to hear both sides of this issue and try to be able to start forming some, getting to make a decision on it. So I appreciate everybody being here today. It's great to be here. And by the way, I've been here I've never been here as a defendant, and I've not been here in court, but I have been here to check some titles before, so I can claim that distinction.
Thank you. I'm Mitchell Scoggins, representing Mitchell Scoggins. I'm from District 14, which is Bartow County and a portion of Cherokee County. So that's in the Cartersville, Canton area. I'm a retired probate judge for 28 years. Don't know why I got back into politics, but I did. Enjoyed doing my job. This is a great place. This is a good working committee, and we seem to work and try to fix the issue, and that's what we're going to attempt to do today. Thank you very much.
I think we got everybody. Okay, Senator Hatchett had mentioned that this may be precedent setting to do this. We have separated counties out and created new judicial circuits with them, but we've never taken a county from one circuit and put it over to another circuit. This does have ramifications with the budget. The DA's, the DA in the Mountain Judicial Circuit has let me know that should this move take place, that he's going to need an extra ADA and investigator, I believe. And the Public Defender's Office is also going to need to have an additional person added to their staff as well, an attorney. So it has monetary ramifications, and there are other things to be considered. Most folks don't think about, but those that are involved in it do, which have some judges seated over here and county commissioners out in the room. What I would like to hear is, if this move were to take place, is there or has there been consideration of a new circuit agreement and how that would work? And is everybody on board with all that? And or is this something that is going to need to be hashed out? If anybody sees that might be a problem, that kind of thing, I need to hear that. But that's kind of the main stuff that I want to hear about. I want to make sure that people are in agreement to do this, that they can work together and get it done. And I only have 3 people that have signed up. And if anybody else wants to talk, I'm going to call on these 3 first. But I would love to hear from you if you have something to say. So first up is Charles Turk, Banks County Board of Commissioners.
First of all, on behalf of the county commissioners and the people of Banks County, we appreciate y'all taking the time to come up here today. Really means a lot to us, and appreciate your time. When we look at our geographics, when you look at Jackson County has 80,000, Barrow County has 86,000. That is, and really 87. I'm kind of rounding them up and down. Banks County has 18,000. That's all we've got. All right. Rayburn County has 17,000. Stevens County has 26,000. Habersham County has right at 47,000. So if you put us in with a Mountain Judicial, that gives a total population of 108. If you take us out of the Piedmont, just Jackson and Barrow by themselves is 167. So, like Senator Hatchett said, we're somewhere around between 8 and 10% of the say-so in the Piedmont Judicial. Then when you look at the geographics of it, Jackson County has switched from mainly agricultural to industrial, a lot of commercial. Barrow County, my grandson plays travel ball a lot in Barrow County. It is packed all the time, a lot of industrial. We, on the other hand, are still a majority agriculture. We do have all of our commercial is the 85, 441 area. do have a little bit of commercial scattered hither and yonder, but that's about it. We have a very little industrial. Most of ours is retail commercial. So that being said, we really don't plug in real well with them. Earlier in the week, I talked to the chairman of Barrow County, and she totally supports us leaving. She realizes we don't fit in, and she said that they are more than happy for us to leave, that way they won't have to add another judge and so forth. So she's in support of it. I've talked to the chairman at Jackson County several different times. He's never indicated to me that he wanted us to stay. The Mountain Judicial, Rayburn, Stevens, and Habersham all says they welcome us with open arms. We've also always said that we would be more than willing to pay our share. We know going in, there will be a cost to going in. We feel like it's going to be a lot less than being in Piedmont right now. But our biggest thing is geographically, we just don't fit in there anymore. They have changed a lot. I remember Barrow County when it was small in agriculture. I grew up a lot of my life in Jackson County. We were all agricultural there. It's completely changed. And we just feel like we fit in a lot better with the Mountain Judicial than we do Piedmont. And like I say, I appreciate all of y'all's time and effort to come up here, and hope you take everything into consideration. Yes, sir.
Are there any questions from the committee? Representative Alvin.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Chairman, I'm sure you're going to give us a financial analysis of the cost going back and forth, but I assume the supplements are different for the Superior Court judges in these two sections.
So you're correct. What I pulled from the sheriff got me some number from Rayburn County, and it was probably about $75,000 less of what they're paying now. So we feel like we're paying a lot more to be in Piedmont with a lot less representation. And sometimes I refer to it as we seem like we're the adopted redheaded stepchild. We can't swing an election with them one way or the other, so they really don't care about us anymore. And plus, we just don't feel like we fit in.
Anybody else? Yes, sir. Yeah, just hold that down until your lights up. There you go.
Has that got me? You hear me okay?
Yes.
And was it Mr. Turk?
Yes, sir.
Were you
Yes.
in relation to David Turk, who used to be the DA over in, I don't know if it was Mountain, but he was I think an assistant DA. I worked with him. in
Probably
Rocky
so.
Top.
It seemed like our crowd kind of drifted towards Hall County and then towards the mountain. I think me and my daughters were the only still Turks living in Banks County right now for the original one.
So you don't know him, but you just might be related to him,
I guarantee you I'm related, yeah. And actually, when Banks County was formed, there was a Turk that was the first commissioner.
Oh, is that
so
right?
we go all the way back.
So y'all been here a while.
Yeah, and I live on a farm that we've had for 128 years, I think. So,
wow.
yeah, we go way back, and we like to keep it agricultural here, rural. That's the way most people like it. So, yep, probably am.
Well, and that brings up, I sort of want to explore that a little bit. So you feel like just, I guess, demographically, or at least in terms of the sort of the prevailing economy, y'all are different from the rest of your partners
Correct.
in the Piedmont
Yes,
now,
sir.
but you're similar to more of the mountain.
Right, because they're still, Habersham is probably not quite as agriculture, but it is a lot of agriculture. Rayburn County, they're a lot of tourism, but there's still a lot of agriculture, and Stevens County is very agricultural too. So, I mean, we're mainly chicken houses and cattle here.
Okay.
A few horses, goats, but yeah, we're completely different.
So you're, obviously you've got, in the court system, you've got a lot of offices that are elected countywide, not circuit-wide, but you do have judges. Are there any judges currently in the Piedmont Circuit that are from Banks County?
No, sir. Well, I don't know where they're from, but we have no judges
I mean, they
that
don't
practice
reside.
here. Correct,
Right,
yes.
so that you wouldn't be displacing any judge by.
Correct,
by
yes, sir.
moving
We
forward.
would not. In fact, Mountain, one of the judges there said he grew up in Banks County, and he plans on, if we get in, he plans on coming and having office here.
Okay.
Mhm.
What about I guess your DA's not from?
Correct, he's not from here.
Okay.
I think he's Barrow County.
Just thinking a little bit about the economics of it. So I think you've said you feel, I guess in a sense, you'd get a better value from.
Yes, sir.
Better or less, if you were moved into the mountain. I wanted to explore that a little bit with you. Like, why exactly would you say that? Is it because you just don't feel like you've got much of a voice in that circuit, or you feel like you send all this money and you're not really getting, or your case is not getting prosecuted, or what are the details of that statement?
Well, I think the sheriff and clerk of court, Tim Harper, probably answer that better, but we feel as commissioners, we just don't get much bang for the buck. I mean, when we get into budget time, when the person comes, I ask them a question, they don't know. We had a huge backlog of cases, and then all of a sudden, and Tim can tell a little more about this, all of a sudden, they get a whole bunch of different people in there, and all of a sudden, the cases start just dropping. So, I mean, they absolutely got blistered with cases that were just not getting handled by the DA's office. But I just feel like that our type people are agricultural type people, and so is Mountain, where it's more city type.
So it sounds like
in the Piedmont, so I think there is a cultural difference. And like I say, I don't feel like they really care whether we're here or not. We just.
Do you know what and it may be someone else is gonna get into the finances of it, but you know what y'all pay in? I mean, and I'm not even sure, you pay a certain amount for judge supplements and.
This is Randy Failure. He's our CFO. He can give you the exact answers. I could give you kind of ballpark figures. We did run some, and it looks like we're probably about 74,000 less. And we did include indigent defense, juvenile, and the DA's.
I don't think the chairman's not quite sure about the supplements. But to answer your questions on the intergovernmental agreements that you had mentioned before, I don't think that's ever going to be a problem as far as budget's concerned. More than likely, the budgets for the Mountain District may be a tad bit lower than the Piedmont. But as far as intergovernmental agreements and budgeting for them, I don't see a problem with that whatsoever. But as far as the supplements for the judges, that would probably be more in the payroll area or human resource director. But as far as moving things around or amending the budget, I don't see a problem with that whatsoever.
Meaning you think you're gonna have enough money in this year's budget well, I don't know, I guess it wouldn't be effective until next year at this point, but you'd be able to adjust for the budget and it wouldn't put a strain on your budget, might even be an ease.
Absolutely.
Ease up on it.
Absolutely. Budget ends on June the 30th. And if there was any change prior to that, I don't see a problem with it whatsoever.
So what do you currently do in terms of funding? You said there's an intergovernmental agreement?
There's another intergovernmental agreement between the secretaries and this up for the different judges for Banks, Barrow, and Jackson. And we go through, and also as far as the indigent defense, as far as that goes. And as a matter of fact, that's taken out of the Superior Court Department right now.
So you've got agreements with the other counties and the Piedmont Circuit right now that sort of addresses how much you chip in to,
Yes,
to the operations of the circuit?
That's correct.
Okay. And is it just a single line item on your budget?
It's a single line item, exactly.
Okay.
Sure is.
And
Well, the juvenile is separated out, and the indigent defense separated out, and then Superior Court. So it's actually 3 lines in our budget that so we break it down that way, so it'd be a little easier for us commissioners to look at.
Yeah.
And that way we kind of know where we're going with each department.
okay, but
It's an itemized breakdown, just like anything else. You see a P&L statement, It's got phone service on there, public utilities, you know, you name it, it's on there. And it also has the intergovernmental agreements in there as well. So it's just like you're looking down a profit and loss statement, and they get it each month.
So when you say you think it would be less expensive, to use the word of my favorite philosopher, Jethro Bodine, you've done some ciphering on it to figure out the
I'm
details.
not saying at this time how much less it would be. I'm just admitting that it would, we're not gonna have a problem switching over.
All right, thank you.
And kind of where I got the figure was Rayburn County is 17,000, we're 18,000. We kind of looked at their figures knowing that, you know, if we're in this, we're probably, I think I run the figures, we're 22%. So, you know, that's where we kind of got that figure there. We're probably have to pay a little bit more than Rayburn County, knowing that they'll have to add probably judge and so forth and so on. So it's kind of where I base my numbers on was Rayburn County, because they're right at us.
And so you've factored into some of that analysis the additional personnel that might be required by the addition of your county?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Mhm.
all right. Thank you very much.
Yep.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Thanks for the question.
Commissioner Turk, I know you have room, or I saw a room marked for the district attorney, and I'm sure you have an office for the judges as well. Can you describe what the facilities are like here for, you know, for the judges of the Mountain Circuit if they're going to come down here and be judges in Banks County?
Tim Harper, clerk court, probably
Describe that better.
take care of that, but I mean, if I think there's plenty of room for a judge's office, if I'm not correct. Yes, there is. But I mean, he can explain that a little deeper if you need that.
Yeah, well, it matters.
Oh yeah, it matters a lot.
Yeah,
But he's the expert on that.
When I first
more
became DA, I
the
only
pleading.
had one office in one county in a 4-county circuit, and I had to grow the office into 4 counties, all 4 counties. So that took some doing.
Yeah.
I understand you have the facilities here. I just didn't know to what extent they are.
Oh
So-
yeah. Well, you want to answer that?
Well, we'll call him up here in just
Okay.
a second.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I told you I got here early and I was in the barber shop over at the restaurant, but.
You got baptized well, didn't you?
And they asked me a question that I didn't know the answer to, and I just said that I would bring it up. Whether or not there was gonna be any, impact or change on, if you had to call a grand jury, would the pool of people that you would have to go to, would it change, and if so, how?
No, it's just here.
No, it's because it's just be in this county, and they'll pull it out of this county. So just be a matter who comes and to Tim and tells them when they pull it. But
I
it'll
just
be
said
Banks
that I
County.
would ask the question, I didn't
Yeah.
know the answer.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Two questions. Earlier you gave a number, and I don't know that I understood it right. What's the current supplement for Banks County in the circuit, in the Piedmont circuit?
Well, now, one thing we did was we did cut some out this year because we were pretty sure we were going in the mountains. So we cut it down some. Randy, can you give me the exact number?
Okay.
We cut 75.
But that's
we
for the
cut
whole.
se-
That's
No,
for the whole.
it was 200 and. No, but what was the total? The total that we budgeted? 268,000.
And that's for judges and DA in a year.
Correct.
Okay.
See, our fiscal year runs July 1 through June 30th, where the judges runs January calendar year.
So normally it's about 268, and then last year it got reduced to what?
Well, that's what we reduced it now.
Okay. So that's the reduced figure?
Mhm.
What
Yes,
was
sir.
it before it was reduced?
Whatever, 74 into that. So it'd be 340 roughly.
Okay, reduced 75. And the second question, I worked at the Northern Circuit when I was at UGA, and I seem to remember Tim Madison was the DA then, and sounds like you know the area. Where was he? What's his story? Where was he from?
I don't know exactly where he was from, but I actually had to go on the grand jury a long time ago when the indictment came down. But I mean, I think he worked around here a pretty good bit. So I think you worked all 3 counties pretty well. Yeah, I remember
That's a
Tim
good
real well.
phrase.
That's right. That's right. Thank you. Any more?
Any other questions? All right,
Once
Mr.
again, thank you all very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, Carlton Speed, the sheriff. Come on up, sir.
Be careful what you sign up for. I thought they said just to sign up and I wouldn't have to speak. I am Carlton Speed. I'm the sheriff here in Banks County. Appreciate y'all for coming up here. I'm sure the scenery driving to Banks County is much better than driving into downtown Atlanta. You know, you see the fields and, you know, the farms, and so I enjoy that better than going into downtown Atlanta. The sky rise, once I get south of Brazelton, they say anytime you get to somewhere where you're going, there's more than 3 lanes of traffic, you need to turn around and go home. So that's my motto a lot of times. But to speak on what we're talking about here today, that's something that has been going on for a long time. Been talk of moving Banks County out of the Piedmont Circuit since I got elected sheriff. It's a representation. Citizens of Banks County feel like they're not represented. They feel like when they go to the ballot box, they can't make a change. You know, that's one of the things in this country that we talk to our people about all the time. If you want to make change, you go to the ballot box and you make change. The citizens in Banks County, when I get out in the community and I talk to folks, and I talk to everybody, they feel like there's no change. There's no way to make a change when they go to the ballot box when it comes to, you know, our district attorney, our judges, things that were in the circuit. And that's one of those words that, you know, you talked about a while ago when you went into the circuit. And I'm going to ask a question. When did you go into the circuit, Chairman? Do you remember when you went to the circuit that you were in?
Well, that was 1991 when I started. I was working for the governor before that.
And the circuit is a word that, you know, I've been sitting and thinking a lot since this whole ordeal has come up. How long have circuits been around?
Since the beginning.
Correct. And they've never been changed. We haven't visited that at all. So at what point has our system become antiquated? When do we give the people, local people, the chance to make their voice heard? That's one of the things that I have people asking me about. You know, they said circuits were created back in the days of horse and buggy when they didn't have enough people, enough judges to get around, so they would make a circuit so that somebody could get from point A to point B and have court. Have we outgrown that? Have we had the ability to change our circuits or to update our system? Are we going to give our folks the ability to have their voices heard? You know, those are some of the things that when I'm out in the community, I try to listen to people. You know, my grandpa always told me, he said, son, if you don't vote, don't complain. So, you know, the people in this circuit in Banks County, they want to vote, but they're complaining. That's why we're here today, because they're complaining about their voices are not being heard. So the biggest part, in my mind, is representation. You know, we're not here to talk about how people are doing their jobs or, you know, not to cast blame at people. That's not what we're here for today. We're here asking, you know, this committee to consider moving Banks County into an area where they think that they'll be better represented, where their voices will be heard when they go to the ballot box. So that, to me, is what this all boils down to, the ability to be heard when we go to the ballot box. I've got a 25-year-old son, and I asked him, I said, son, did you vote? He said, nope. I said, why not? He said, doesn't matter. My vote don't count. So when we have people that are that age that are not voting, we've got a problem. So that's my take on it.
All right. Any questions for the sheriff?
No questions, but I'll steal our council's thunder on this. Brock Perry, he helped me decipher some things about some of these circuits. The northeastern circuit is west of the western circuit, and the western circuit is the eastern circuit is south of the western circuit. The South Georgia and the southern circuit are south of the southwestern circuit.
In the northern circuit.
Yeah,
is-
the Brunswick circuit has counties that are 100 miles or more inland from Brunswick. Blue Ridge is not in the Blue Ridge circuit. Cherokee County is the only county in the Blue Ridge circuit. It's just, you're right, it goes back a long way and doesn't make logical sense on some, at least what they name them.
And so do we, like I said, do we start looking at maybe an antiquated system, time to change? Should we base it on budgets? Should we base it on a county's ability to pay for a district attorney or judges or district attorneys? I think since I've been here, Sheriff, how many ADAs we had? 31. I've been in office for 10 years. Not that long. Since 1993, we had 31 ADAs. We feel like, we bring them to Banks County, we train them, and then they go somewhere else. And I understand people have to make a living. I understand that completely. But at what point do we have the ability to maintain and keep the people that we're training? It's just like me. I spend thousands of dollars every year training my officers, and it's my job to keep their salary to the point to where I can maintain and keep those folks where they can serve the citizens of Banks County. So, it goes back to looking at what do we do. Just because we've always done it that way doesn't mean it's the right way. Thank y'all for giving me the opportunity to speak. Yes, sir.
Chairman, I have one question. Sheriff, so are you asking us to move y'all into the mountain circuit, or you want us to totally change the structure of the delivery?
I give you something to think about, didn't I? I'm asking you to move us to the mountain circuit. Absolutely. But I also want to give you food for thought. Just because we always done it that way don't mean it's right.
Well, agree. I think we always need to look at that. I also think that while it may not readily be apparent to us in our time, using this reason.
Correct. And I understand that completely.
I think it would be difficult. I think it would be a little more straining on budgets if every county had its own circuit. Although if we keep growing, we may get to that point.
And some counties already have the ability.
They already do.
Yes, sir. Correct.
Well, thank you. That's been some food for thought, but I'd much rather focus on your first.
I appreciate it. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Sheriff. Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Sheriff. I got a little confused. The only voter pool change for election is the Superior Court judge and the DA. Am I correct about that?
Yes, ma'am.
Your clerk and your sheriff, all of your budgets are locally county oriented. Doesn't your deputies are not paid by any other county?
No.
So we're only talking about the election, Superior Court judge and DAs are
Correct.
circuit line.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right. Call the clerk of the court up. Mr. Harper.
Mr. Chairman and committee, we're honored to have you in Banks County today, and I thank you for taking time to come be with us today for this important meeting. And what you get for going last is you make a list of things you want to say, and everybody else has already talked about it. But I'm not mad at anybody, and I think Mr. Irwin has already said that. And I don't think anybody's mad at anybody. I have developed a friendship with my judges and my DA. We work together well. We go to lunch together. We have a good communication between each other. We don't have any problems. And I've been here for 31 years. We've had a good relationship that I hope we'll have even if we move to the mountain circuit, and I think we will. But Banks County only makes up about 10% of the Piedmont circuit, which is what you've heard. And we just don't feel like we have any voice or any reason to stay in the Piedmont circuit. As you know, Jackson County and Barrow County are growing at rapid rates. We're not going to do that. The mountain circuit has not changed. We're pretty well equal. You could almost say 25% per county. But economically, and I think this goes back to a question, and this, as the sheriff said, we've been talking about this for a long time. We went to Rayburn County about 3 years ago, and we were looking at the economics of this thing. And at that time, Banks County was paying about $380,000 a year to be in the Piedmont Circuit. And they said, no, that's not right. That's not correct. And so she got up and went to her figures and looked, and they were only paying about $180,000 a year. So, and at that time, we would like to come in, we would make that number even lower. And I understand you're saying we'd have to have another ADA, we might have to have more of this or more of that. And these are figures that are older, by the way, so they're not compatible with today's numbers maybe, but I don't think they've changed that much. In the last 10 years since the late Judge Bob Adamson died, we haven't had a judge in the county to reside in the county or to have an office in the county, and I understand that. We only make up 10% of the circuit. Now, I can call my judges, I can call any of the 4 judges, I got a problem, I need some help, and they'll come. I expect the same thing out of the Mountain Circuit. I've known Judge Caudell and Judge Smith and Judge Oliver for 31 years, and we're friends, and I expect the same thing out of them. I'm not saying that it's going to be any different. I don't think there will be any changes there at all. But we would just have an equal voice in the election, and they would have to come to Banks County and campaign if they wanted to get elected, because we'd have about 25% of the vote. There are about 4 attorneys that live in Banks County, and they all 4 practice in the Mountain Circuit. There's only 1 attorney that practices in Banks County. He lives in Jackson County. So we don't even have an attorney, only have 1 attorney that practices in this county. And with that, I appreciate the time. Again, I thank you for coming, and I'll entertain any questions.
All right. I think you've been around long enough. You might be able to answer this question. My information is that the desire to move from the Piedmont Circuit to the Mountain Circuit's been a couple of decades or more.
It has been a long time. It's probably been at least 10 years when it actually started. We started talking about it, and of course, 6 years ago was when we actually got actively involved. We went to Stevens County. We met with commissioners in Stevens, Habersham, and in Rayburn, which is where my numbers came there. So it's been around for a long time, yes.
Okay, and I don't know if you remember when all the talk to do this began. Is it just within the last 6 years, or has it been longer than that?
It's probably been longer than that, yes, sir.
Was the reason the same?
It
the
is.
Representation issue?
It is. I honestly do not think that anybody's mad at anybody. I think this is just an economic thing and a thing that we would fit in with these people better than we fit in with the growing Barrow and Jackson.
Okay.
And it's always been that way. They've always been bigger than us. And I think you were talking, or somebody was talking earlier, in my lifetime, I remember Judge Donahue, he was from Barrow County, and then on up the line, Judge Brooks was from Jackson County. We have never had a judge in Banks County history that I remember, and I don't know of one ever. I mean, I'm sure there was, but
yeah, or a DA.
Nor a DA, no, sir. And Tim Madison did not live in Banks County.
No, he didn't.
No, he didn't.
Okay. I don't want to bring up bad memories. Stacy, you have one?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. I was noticing that in addition to moving circuits, this would also be a change of judicial district from 10 to 9.
Yes.
And I was wondering if there's any ramifications from that, either budget-wise or otherwise.
Don't think so. I have friends on both sides as a member of the Clerks Association and COAG. We intermingle. I can't imagine there being any difference or anything budget-wise that would cause us to have any problems at all there. I don't think of anything.
We may just need to check with them. I don't know if they do that based on population or what.
The only thing I can think of would be the source of senior judges for the county to fill in. That usually
Right.
comes from the judicial district. So
And with
we
that
have
being,
some folks over here that might know better.
I think sometimes we have fill-ins from all over the place.
right.
So I don't think they necessarily.
One thing I know that question is that the boundaries of the districts tend to follow boundaries of circuits. So there might be, if banks moves in the mountain, we need to change the boundary between the 9th and the 10th districts. I'm not sure what kind of, if that's done by the judicial council, or if that would need to be done by us, or if that's even a horrible idea. It would seem to me to make sense that you not have a circuit split between different judicial districts. Just my thought there.
One way or the other, we can make that change.
Now, we continued to pay our senior judges supplements even after they retired and became senior judges. Judge Adamson and Judge McWhorter continued to receive a supplement from Banks County even after they became senior judges.
Yeah, Rob makes a good point. We would have to move that line. Not sure if the council does that or if it's a legislative thing. We'll have to find that. All right, any other questions?
I had
Tom Hall?
one other.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, after Chairman Smith.
Mr. Clerk, appreciate what you do. I
Thank
love
you.
my clerks back home a whole lot, talk to them a whole lot as well. Who controls the calendar here in Banks County? Is it the DA or the judge?
The DA.
Okay. You remember the days back when the judge was in control of that?
That was before my time.
Okay. All right. Just want to check, just a little background.
Yes, sir.
I
The
remember
district
those
attorney-
days.
I think everybody's just a little bit different. Our district attorney prepares the calendar. I do bench warrants and bond forfeitures. Other counties, the DA does that. In other counties, the clerk does the calendar. We just work together and get what we need to get done.
Thank you.
Chairman, I just wondered if the clerk had his favorite Judge McWhorter story he'd be willing to share.
We just talked about that before this meeting started, and I asked somebody, do you remember how many times you've heard Judge McWhorter's story about why I wear a blue robe? And we've got a lot of favorite stories.
My favorite was when the attorney was voir dire in the jury, and he had his back to the judge. He said, "Now, who doesn't want to be here?" And Judge McWhorter raised his hand. And when the attorney spinned around, Judge McWhorter shot it down like he wasn't doing anything. Anyway, thank you.
Yes, sir.
You were talking about space earlier.
Yes, sir.
In the judge's office, you have 2 offices for a judge. You have a center, secretarial, console, and then what we use for a law clerk out front. So you have 4 desks, 2 offices, and a law library attached. The district attorney's office has 3 offices, a conference room, a record room, and a reception area.
Wow. A lot better than I had in White County when I first started. All right. Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you for coming.
All right. Now, at this time, we've gone through the list. I would invite anybody that wants to come up and speak. Yeah, sure.
It's just a quick question with the sponsors. Was there a circuit split study done before the bill was dropped? There was, okay.
Good afternoon. I apologize for not getting here early enough to sign up on the list. My name is Pat Graham. I'm chairman of the Barrow County Board of Commissioners. I guess the first thing I'd like to say is District Attorney Tim Madison did not live in Barrow County either. I've been chairman of the Board of Commissioners for 11 years. Prior to that, I was the mayor of Brazelton for 8 years. As the mayor of Brazelton, it was a unique situation. We spanned 4 different counties. And being in 4 different counties put us in a multitude of different areas in terms of state organizations. EPD had our city split up. DCA had it split up. GDOT had it split up. We were in 3 different regional commission areas. And I say that because as a county chairman, Barrow County and every county is assigned to a regional commission district. Jackson County and Barrow County are both part of the Northeast Georgia Regional Commission District, and they provide a multitude of services to local county government. Banks County is in the Mountains Regional Commission area. They receive all their services from the Mountains region. It seems like the only area that Banks County is receiving different services is this Piedmont Judicial Circuit. They're aligned with different counties than they are for almost every other local government service and support service they receive from the state of Georgia. I became aware of this issue about 5 to 6 years ago and drove up here to meet with Chairman Jimmy Hooper when there was a newspaper article on the front page of the Jackson Herald that said Banks County wanted a divorce from the Piedmont Judicial Circuit. And I'd never met with Chairman Hooper before, and I went, oh my goodness, I need to go find out what that's about. He explained to me why they were interested in leaving the Judicial Circuit at that point, and it made sense to me, and I supported that move then. I'm glad legislation has been dropped, and this committee is going to give Banks County a chance to be heard on this issue. But what I would like to say from Barrow County's point of view, we have a very cooperative agreement with the 3 counties that are in this judicial circuit. I support Banks County moving to the mountains and hope the Mountains Judicial Circuit is willing to accept them. We have a cost-sharing agreement that's based on population. I believe it's based on decennial census. Barrow County has no concern about a cost-sharing change as a result of Banks County moving. They're not a major population within this district. So I understand that there will be a cost change, so to speak. I think Jackson County and Banks County are well suited to pair up in this judicial circuit. We are growing at a similar rate. I think we are the 5th and 6th fastest growing counties in the state of Georgia. Demographically, we're very similar. Poverty levels, income levels, we've got a lot of commonality. We work very well together. I think the cost sharing agreement will move forward. And again, Barrow County doesn't have any concerns about the cost changing. I apologize for not knowing what supplements the judges receive from Barrow County, but I do know, having looked at this during our 2022 budget, the district attorney was not receiving any additional supplements from any counties in the district, and I think Barrow County in 2023 added a supplement for the DA that's paid by Barrow County, and that's the only county receiving or paying a supplement for the district attorney. And I apologize for not knowing what the supplements are. I'm willing to answer any questions if anyone on the committee has any.
Chairman Smith.
Chairwoman, thank you for being here today. We appreciate your time. Is there any supplements being given to the Public Defender's Office?
I'm not. There may be. I'm not certain. I didn't bring that information with me. I know we are giving one to the district attorney.
Okay, but not Public Defender. All right, thank you.
But that's just to the elected DA, right?
Yes, and that won't change. And I'm not sure what type of supplements Banks County is paying to any of the elected officials that would be affected.
Mr. Chairman, I meant to ask this to Bill Arthur, just if I may, real quick.
Right.
The study that was done, did they recommend this move?
They don't make recommendation, they just find the feasibility of it.
And they found it feasible?
They found it feasible.
Okay.
And when was the study completed?
So there was a study done, initiated by Chairman Irwin last year, 2 years ago. There was a study that was recently done that's just been reported out now. Those results will be in December, but the initial was favorable. I can share that with the results. I should have done that earlier.
Okay, no problem. Any other questions from the panel? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and committee, and I apologize, I didn't sign up because I didn't really think I needed to say anything, but now I feel like hearing everybody's testimony, I needed to represent Jackson County. I'm Gina Roy. I'm the Assistant County Manager for Jackson County. So I'm going to talk on behalf of the administrative side of Jackson County. And just to clarify and align with what Chairwoman Graham said, is that Jackson County does not have a problem from the administrative side doing a cost share with just Barrow, Jackson. We understand we are growing. We have a lot of caseload between the two counties. Understand why Banks County wants to go to the mountain region. But I also have Commissioner from our District 5, Marty Clark, here. And I think we have a consensus from our commissioners as well. So I just wanted to mention that. And
Okay. Appreciate it. Any questions? Seeing none, thank you.
Chairman, committee, thank y'all so much for coming up into the mountains. This is God's country.
It is.
I'm Joey Terrell. I'm the sheriff of Habersham County, and so I'm here in support of my old buddy, Carlton Speed. And we work well together, and we're in the Appalachian Drug Task Force together. So we share clientele, you could say, together. Services rendered to such people. Your Honor, you might be familiar with some of those back in the
sure,
day.
yes.
Anyways, Representative Irwin reached out to me, of course, when this whole thing started, to make sure he had my support. I know he's talked to the other sheriffs, and wish they could have been here today. And of course, Senator Hatchett, we've talked about him many times. So, like I said, I'm just here to throw my support behind it, and I will go out on a limb and I will say I have the hardest working judges in the whole state of Georgia, and the three of them are sitting right here. Well, 2.5 anyways. Yeah. And we have Ms. Rickman, who keeps them in line. So I know they're not afraid of hard work. We talk many hours about many things, and I will brag on my judges that they're not afraid to take on a task. And we would more than welcome Banks County into our circuit and make them at home, because that's, again, we talked about it. You go to Jackson County, you go down and visit. I go down and visit Judge Smith down there in Barrow County, and it's even Miss Janice down in Jackson County, and it's a different animal down there now than it used to be 10 years ago. Like when you were sitting on the bench, White County's way different now than it is today, and then Habersham's changed. But we are more kindred spirit when you talk about the agriculture, because we are a lot of agriculture in Habersham County. We are the biggest county in the circuit, but we are all the same. So we would welcome them into our circuit with open arms, absolutely. So thank y'all so much for coming up here and giving us the opportunity to come before you and speak. So we appreciate it so much.
Yes, sir. Any questions for the sheriff before he sits down? Sheriff, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate your word.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
My name is Ben Green. I'm the elected chief magistrate judge in Jackson County, and I have the unique background that I began my legal career as an ADA in the Jackson County District Attorney's Office, and also spent 3 years as an ADA in the Mountain Circuit attached to the Appalachian Regional Drug Task Force that we've talked about. And I can say the circuits are worldly different. And when people ask me how different they are, I say, well, if you imagine that they're a TV show, the Mountain Circuit is Cheers, and the Piedmont Circuit is Game of Thrones. So wildly different. When I was working as an ADA in the Mountain Circuit, I think it's circa 2015, I know that this issue came up. And I know that our office, we kind of looked at it with open arms, and I think that is the general perception in the Mountain Circuit. And so I wanted to voice that. And the other thing I wanted to voice is kind of, I believe there's a little bit of an elephant in the room in regards to when this came up at the last legislative session. My understanding was there was a pitch or an amendment made to join Jackson and Barrow County with Clark County. And
there was talk of that. That
okay.
didn't happen.
Well, I know we've got some Jackson County folks here that I drug up here, and we just want to, I guess, impress on everybody what a bad idea we think that is. And so if that comes up again in the next legislative session, I just wanted to be the one to say we thought that was a horrible idea, and I'll just leave it at that.
If it helps, I agree with that.
Okay, excellent. You know, there's a very, very unique opportunity. There was a feasibility study done, and I think that the uniqueness is that Banks County really can leave the Piedmont Circuit and go to the Mountain Circuit. They don't have to pick up a judge, and we don't have to lose a judge. And I know that we're on the feasibility study, when it was done, we were on the bottom edge of kind of being overjudged. And I think that the committee should keep in mind that Jackson and Barrow are the 5th and 6th fastest growing counties. And so while we would be at perhaps the bottom end of being overjudged, I think those numbers are already obsolete at this point, as fast as the counties are growing. So,
all right.
Any questions? Thank you all.
See any? Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Chairman. My name is Ty Akins. I'm the chairman of the Habersham County Commission. And in addition to that, I also serve on the Joint Development Authority, which is Banks, Habersham, and Rabun. And I've been on that for about 7 years. And, you know, I think they set up that Joint Development Authority because we do have so much in common. And so we kind of share and communicate with each other and work closely together. And Habersham County is the county that would collect and disperse the funds. You know, we do that with Rabun and Stevens already. And so I just wanted to come up here. We've talked about it along with the county manager and the staff, and as long as our Superior Court judges are willing, then Habersham County is perfectly ready to have Banks join the Mountain Judicial Circuit.
All right.
So just wanted to come up here and make that clear too. We're ready if they are.
Oh, I appreciate you coming up because I was getting ready to ask for anybody that opposes this because I haven't heard from anybody yet that opposes it.
Y'all have any questions or anything?
Anybody have them? Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right. Well, I will ask the question, is there anybody here that opposes this? Because I would like to hear from your side of it. Unanimous. Yes, sir. Let's see. Can we get a microphone? You can just take that.
Just take the mic.
Just take the mic to it. You can stay seated and just hand him that. No, I think you have to use. Okay, there you go.
My name is Bruce Palmer. I'm a commissioner from Habersham County.
Just hold it down for a second. There you go.
Okay, now, I'm Bruce Palmer. I'm a commissioner from Habersham County. I'm not really opposing, but I do have some questions. First of all, I know we added a third Superior Court judge to help with caseload, and I haven't had a chance to talk with Judge Smith or Oliver or Caudell, but I hope that we're progressing through some of the backlog of cases, I would imagine. But this does add more caseload to them. So, and Habersham, Northeast Georgia is growing. Everybody kind of understands that. So even though we may not need a fourth judge right at the moment, but at some point soon, the Mountain Judicial Circuit, especially if we're adding another county, is probably going to need a fourth Superior Court judge. So I just want everybody to realize that the caseload is going to continue to grow. Also, Habersham County is the fiscal agent for the circuit, so we already kind of organize funds between Stevens, Rabun, and Habersham County, and sometimes that can be a challenge for the fiscal agent also. Not to mention the DA's office. Chairman, I know you mentioned the fact that the DA's office had already requested another ADA and possibly an investigator. and the public defender's office, and especially the public defender's office. The last time I talked with them, they were having trouble finding attorneys that wanted to work in the public defender's office. And, you know, back to the judges and the caseload, the judges can only hear the cases that the prosecutors and the defense attorneys prepare and get to them. So, you know, I just don't want us to get into a position that we're getting 4 counties behind on caseload, as opposed to just 3. And again, I'm not opposed to Banks County joining the judicial circuit. I do think there's some questions that we need to ask and think through during the process.
I appreciate you bringing that to our attention. I think those are the kind of details that would have to be worked out probably after a move is made one way or the other. The willingness is the question I have. Are you willing to work those issues out?
Oh yeah, I think we can. It's just, you know, the funding sources for Banks County, I know they're talking about saving money at being in the Mountain Judicial Circuit. That may or may not be the case whenever we actually work through everything. So, you know, I don't want them to move thinking, well, we're gonna save a lot of money by doing this, whenever it's the additional caseload, population, additional ADAs, investigators, public defenders, all that figures in. There may not be that much of a savings. So,
Okay. All right. Any questions? Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
My name's Chris Osborne. I'm a district commissioner in Banks County. And one thing I'd like to point out is we've all talked about how they have already outgrown us. I'd like to simply point out that the track that they're growing on is so much greater than ours. They're going to continue to outgrow us at a rapid rate. So now I think is the time to move versus waiting till they outgrow us even more, if that makes sense.
Right.
That's all I have to add.
All right. Any questions from anybody? All right. Anybody else? All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank y'all. The input has been very informative for us, and we'll take this information back to the Capitol when the session begins, and we'll make our decisions at that time. So thank you very much. Thanks for being here, and thanks for hosting us. You've been a great host. Appreciate it. Thank you for coming. Meeting adjourned.